It looks like Tears of the Kingdom is set to have the biggest launch in franchise history. Does this mean that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will become a better selling game than its predecessor, Breath of the Wild? Well, that's what we're talking about today.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we're going to be talking about whether The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom can outsell The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that has sold 30 plus million if you account for both Wii U and Switch sales. But before we dive any further, let me point out that we've been trying to hit 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom releases on May 12th. Still got a long way to go, but if you enjoy my content and subscribe and hit that notification bell, there's a chance we may get there. So the reason we're talking about this possibility that Tears of the Kingdom can outdo Breath of the Wild today is because we got some information about pre-orders. It's looking like pre-orders for Tears of the Kingdom are already surpassing Breath of the Wild, but there's still some time to go, and Tears of the Kingdom pre-orders may continue to go up. So this information was tipped off to me from Pierre485 on Twitter. They state, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom just surpassed Breath of the Wild pre-order total 8 weeks before launch, COMG. Tears of the Kingdom is expected to have the biggest debut in franchise history. COMG is a specific chain of 14 stores, all located in Niigata Prefecture. The data you see above represent the number of copies pre-ordered. 269 mean 269 people pre-ordered. COMG market share is approximately 0.1%, meaning one pre-order generally translates to 1,000 copies across Japan. So basically what's being explained here, COMG is a chain of stores that gets pre-orders and they account for about 0.1% of sales in Japan. So the implication is every pre-order there, it's suggesting that there will be about a total of 1,000 elsewhere. So it's a sample size that's suggesting sales across Japan. And as of this point, where we're at right now, with still 8 weeks left to go before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, pre-orders for Tears of the Kingdom have already passed Breath of the Wild, suggesting that when Tears of the Kingdom does come out, it will outperform Breath of the Wild at its launch. It's going to have a stronger launch. And again, let me reiterate, there's still 8 weeks left for more pre-orders to build. It's already past it with 8 weeks to go, so we're not entirely sure just how great it will be. And again, this is a sample size, so it's not 100% indicative of how sales will go, and this is just for Japan, so we'll see how it translates to the rest of the world. But it's a very, very good sign for an incredibly strong launch. It suggests that Tears of the Kingdom is going to greatly outperform Breath of the Wild when it comes to early on sales. But I would say you can quite easily argue that it should be expected for Tears of the Kingdom to have a much bigger launch than Breath of the Wild. Why? Because there's a lot of Switch owners out there right now, 120 million plus. Back when Breath of the Wild came out for the Switch, it was the launch of the Switch. It was a day one system. Not that many people had it at the time, and not that many people were going to get it on Wii U. So from that perspective, Tears of the Kingdom has an overwhelming advantage. There's a lot more people available to play Tears of the Kingdom now because so many more people have a Switch. And this kind of reminds me of the situation regarding Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is a recent Pokemon game, and its initial sales were far greater than the initial sales for Pokemon Sword and Shield. But interestingly, when we take a look at the sales numbers for Scarlet and Violet, not only did it have a stronger launch, but it's paced incredibly well. It looks like it may be able to even pass Pokemon Sword and Shield sales. Pokemon Sword and Shield sales last time we got an update is at 25.68 million. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is at 20.61. Considering that Skyward and Violet hasn't even had its expansion pass yet, and it's only been out for a few months, and it's already at about 80% of the sales for Sword and Shield, there's a pretty good chance it could catch up to Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I'll point out there was this leak suggesting that there's going to be a graphics enhancement patch for Scarlet and Violet when the second wave of the DLC comes out for winter 2023, which may be early next year. And if this leak is true, which we don't know for 100%, but if it is, this would suggest that there will be a Switch 2 out around that time. And this would mean that it's going to have an opportunity to sell on the next new system as well, with the DLC, with a graphical update. So if I were to guess, I'm going to say that Skyward and Violet will eventually pass. It's already at about 80% of its sales, it's only been out for a few months. It's going to enjoy a few more holidays as being the premier Pokemon game. The expansion pass will boost sales. The graphics enhancement that it may get for the next system will boost sales. And people are going to want to play it on the next system as well, especially if Nintendo is pushing for backwards compatibility. And just to take a look at another example here, Splatoon 3 has already sold over 10 million copies, while Splatoon 2 has sold at about 13.3, and Splatoon 2 came out around summer 2017, a few months into the system's life. Splatoon 3 is still enjoying its DLC, we still haven't seen the expansion pass, we'll see updates throughout next year as well, I believe. And if they're going to follow the same supposed strategy with Scarlet and Violet and they offer up some sort of performance upgrade on the next system, that's going to give Splatoon 3 a little bit of a boost as well. So Splatoon 3 being so close to Splatoon 2 already, and Skyward and Violet being so close to Sword and Shield, I think they both will likely pick up a handful of million of sales over the next couple years if they do everything we've suggested. So coming back to Tears of the Kingdom, if we're seeing these early signs now, and we're seeing how other big follow-ups to games that we got early in the Switch's life cycle ended up getting about 80-ish% of the total sales, I think Tears of the Kingdom might just have a shot as well. Now, it may seem like a tall order, because Breath of the Wild has been an incredible evergreen title. Breath of the Wild, while selling incredibly strong and smashing all sorts of Zelda records, at one point was outsold by Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey overtook it in terms of total lifetime sales, even though Breath of the Wild was out on the market for a longer time. But as the years progressed throughout the Switch's lifespan, Breath of the Wild proved to have better legs, and it has continued to sell even above Mario Odyssey. So then, do I think that Tears of the Kingdom can beat Breath of the Wild? I'll tell you that before taking a look at some of these sales numbers here, I was very skeptical, especially considering how quiet Nintendo has been. But with pre-orders as strong as they are, and with what we've seen with these other follow-ups and how they've managed to catch up to their predecessors quite quickly, and with the looming Switch 2 and potential expansion DLC and potentially graphical upgrades, they have a pathway where they can continue to improve and keep Tears of the Kingdom relevant for a few more years, giving it those evergreen legs, and perhaps granting it the opportunity to pass Breath of the Wild, the highest reviewed game on Switch, the best-selling Zelda by a significant margin, and perhaps my favorite game of all time. It's definitely in that conversation. So can Tears of the Kingdom get there? Maybe. And I think that's pretty exciting. I'm gonna guess that, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom will beat Breath of the Wild. I think it's gonna happen. That's my prediction, which, again, I thought that would have been lofty, but you know what? I think it can happen. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Tears of the Kingdom will beat Breath of the Wild sales lifetime? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.